Hip-hop is filled with legendary duos, Eric B and Rakim, Mobb Deep, UGK, and Clips. But when it comes to redefining not just Southern rap, but the entire culture, no pair did it like OutKast. André 3000 and Big Boi didn't just make hits, they shifted the sound of hip-hop, proving that lyricism, storytelling, and experimentation didn't have to follow the East Coast or West Coast blueprint. They put the Dirty South on the map, bringing Atlanta to the forefront of rap and changing the industry forever. But as fast as they rose to dominance, things fell apart behind the scenes. André 3000's creativity started pulling him in a different direction, away from rap, away from the industry, and eventually away from OutKast. Big Boi wanted to keep the train moving, holding onto the Southern rap roots that made them legends. Personal struggles, industry pressure, and two clashing artistic visions slowly tore them apart, leading to a slow, painful split that hip-hop still hasn't recovered from. So how did OutKast go from being hip-hop's most innovative duo to practically vanishing? How did two childhood friends who once had the entire industry in the palm of their hands end up walking completely separate paths? Let's take it back. The early 90s belonged to the East Coast and West Coast. If you weren't from New York or California, the industry barely gave you a second look. In Atlanta, the sound was different. The city had talent, but it hadn't yet broken through on a national level. Hip-hop fans respected Miami's bass-heavy sound and Houston's gritty storytelling. But when it came to Atlanta, the industry wasn't paying attention. Then came two high school kids who had a different vision. Andre Benjamin, André 3000, and Antoine Patton, Big Boi, met at Tri-Cities High School, bonding over their love of music. They weren't just casual fans of rap, they were students of the game. They studied the greats, learning how to craft bars that could stand up against the best in the game. But most importantly, they knew Atlanta had something special. They called themselves OutKast because that's exactly how they felt. They didn't fit the mold of what a rap duo was supposed to be, and they weren't interested in trying. They embraced their differences, blending Big Boi's sharp Southern street style with Andre's poetic, almost alien-like flow. When LA Reid signed them to Layface Records, Atlanta finally had a group that could put the city on the map, and in 1994 they dropped their debut album, Southern Playalistic Idyllic Music. The first time the industry really noticed OutKast, it wasn't because of a song, it was because of a moment. 1995, the Source Awards. At the time, the hip-hop world was deep in the East Coast versus West Coast war. Tupac and Biggie were trading shots. Death Row and Bad Boy had turned the genre into a battlefield. The industry saw rap as a two-coast game. So when OutKast won Best New Rap Group, the crowd booed. They weren't from New York, they weren't from LA, they weren't supposed to be in this conversation. That's when André 3000 stepped up to the mic and delivered one of the most legendary lines in hip-hop history. The South got something to say, and from that moment on, nobody could ignore OutKast. Their second album, A.T. Leans, dropped in 1996, and it was clear they weren't just some Southern novelty act. The production was spacey, futuristic, almost hypnotic. The lyrics were deeper, more introspective. Then came Akamini, 1998, where they blended their styles like never before. Big Boi kept it raw, Andre kept it otherworldly, and together, they created one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. But they weren't done yet. In 2000, they dropped Stankonia, an album that shattered every limit hip-hop had. B.O.B. was unlike anything the industry had heard before. Rap, rock, funk, and gospel all colliding in a sonic explosion. Ms. Jackson became their first #1 hit, proving they could dominate the mainstream without compromising their artistry. And by this point, OutKast wasn't just a rap duo, they were global superstars. Then came Speakerboxxx, The Love Below, the album that would define them, but also pull them apart. By 2003, André 3000 and Big Boi were moving in two completely different directions. Andre, always the free spirit, wasn't feeling traditional rap anymore. He wanted to sing. He wanted to break the mold of what a hip-hop artist was expected to be. Big Boi, he still had that hustler mentality. He wanted to keep OutKast grounded in hip-hop and the culture that built them. So instead of making another album together, they made two separate albums under the OutKast name. Big Boi's Speakerboxxx Inc. stayed true to their roots. Southern hip-hop, lyrical storytelling, bass-heavy beats. Andre's The Love Below was something else entirely. Singing, jazz, experimental sounds, and a vibe that felt more like a Prince album than anything hip-hop had ever seen before. The gamble paid off. The album sold over 11 million copies, won Album of the Year at the Grammys, and gave the world Hey Ya, one of the biggest songs of all time. But the damage had already been done. This wasn't OutKast OutKast anymore. This was Big Boi and André 3000 on two separate paths. They made one last project together, Idlewild, 2006, but the chemistry was gone. The album didn't hit like the others. The magic was fading. And then, silence. The biggest question in hip-hop, what happened to OutKast? André 3000 lost his passion for rap. He felt disconnected from the industry, from the culture. He stepped away from music, focusing on acting and personal growth. Big Boi kept pushing forward, but without André, it wasn't the same. He dropped solo albums, stayed active in music, but fans still wanted OutKast back. The 2014 reunion tour confirmed it. Something was off. The energy was different. André admitted he wasn't into it anymore. He was done. It wasn't beef. It wasn't betrayal. It was growth. OutKast changed everything. They made Southern rap undeniable. They broke barriers, challenged stereotypes, and proved that hip-hop could be anything it wanted to be. André 3000 may never rap again. Big Boi may never convince him to come back. But the impact of OutKast? That will never fade. Because the truth is, the South still got something to say.